Many people these days consider career change, shifting to UX design, because it seems so much easier than coding and still pays pretty well. And again, you're still in tech. A lot of articles and YouTube videos talk about all the amazing things and stuff that come with being an UX designer, whether that's the kind of salary that you make or the fact you get to work remotely. And if you're seriously considering freelance path, it's the option to be fully remote and work on the project that you really want to work, just like having that freedom. And I can say that these are very great things, but there are some downsides. Well, I don't mean to discourage you from pursuing your dream of becoming an UX designer, but you should be really aware of certain things if this is a path that you want to take. First one is a strong competition. The number of roles in the market is yet growing all the time, but it is becoming increasingly saturated, so there's a huge competition out there. It means that in order to stand out, you would have to work incredibly hard, especially if you're just starting. But the good news is that after a certain point when you feel confident in your design role, the competition landscape would really start to change. You'd receive more and more incoming offers and have solid understanding of how this market works. But finding your first job could be incredibly hard. The second one is tons of communication. You communicate your product and brand to users and your ideas and solutions to engineers. There's no way you can skip this part, otherwise you would seriously limit your impact and career potential. And it can be a real problem if communication is something you tend to avoid. From personal experience, I'm really not that extrovert, and public speaking is a real nightmare for me. But the good news is this is a skill that you possibly can develop, and you can improve it over time. So it's more of a question about motivation and personal interest. And another part of the design job is presentations. As a designer, presentation skill is a must. You will always be presenting something to someone, a stakeholder presentation of your design solution or design review with your peers. Even handing off a design to developers would require some kind of presentation on your end. And some folks can find this very stressful. You gotta overcome your own introversion if you wanna move into design field. There is a lot of uncertainty in design field. Uncertainty is a default state of designer's world. There is never enough data, never enough time, and you've got to research and find a sweet spot when you're confident enough to make a decision. But deciding the future direction of a product or service is not easy. By itself, design problems are usually ill-defined, and it is not immediately clear how to arrive at solution. Besides, product development is a very fluid medium. Everything changes so fast: technology, user demands, competition landscape. There's really no way we can safely predict how our design would evolve in upcoming years. Working here could be a dream or a nightmare if you prefer rigid plans with a little leeway. Another problem is lack of creative freedom. UX design is not about art. It's more about business, technology, analytics, data. And as a designer, you have to think, compare, make decisions. There's little room for actual artsy stuff, but it depends on the industry and niche you're in. For example, working as a web designer, you'd have your hands on way more art-related pieces of work than, let's say, a product designer. And UX designers spend most of their time working on concrete problems, armed with data, stakeholder feedback, and user input. And it's all about the communication and working hands-on with that stuff. It's about connecting the dots and investigating the problem space. It's very creative in its nature, but may very seriously differ from that common creative work understanding. So it's way more about analytics and managing data than doing some creative art kind of stuff. And for me personally, it never was a problem. I feel like every design task has greater potential at its core, and you never have one straight way of solving a problem. An important part of designer's work, I think, is the user interface, and in other words, visual representation of UX, where you can do your best in practice, craft skills, working with typography, colors, shapes, and composition. There are always even more creative tasks waiting to be worked on, like creating a poster or social media ad or a new logo or refresh or something like that. But be prepared that as a designer, you would spend most of your time working on kind of boring things, where design is focusing on things that aren't seen or immediately appreciated, but they can have an equal or even greater impact as the cool stuff. In the end, it's all about impact in revenue, so it's not just the flashy kind of things that you would be working most of the time. There are a lot of alternatives to consider. An UX designer or a product designer isn't the only job in the tech space. There are many other opportunities that you should consider if you're just starting or looking for a career shift. For example, it could be a product manager job. The product manager is responsible for things like product planning, revenue generating, and marketing. He is a mini CEO of the given product scope and operates pretty much in all directions, mainly prioritizing product and customer requirements, working closely with design and engineering, and generally shaping product vision. So product manager wears many hats and their background tend to be very, very different. There exists a position of a junior product manager who pretty much acts like an assistant, helping more seasoned product manager do their work. So if you feel that you're leaning more into the analytics, management, strategy kind of world, maybe product management role is something that you would be really interested in. Often it is expected that product manager already have some bases. Usually they come from engineering or marketing world, or from just being a manager, project management, for example. It is a common journey when project manager becomes a product manager. But it doesn't mean that as a junior product manager, you couldn't start your journey in tech from product manager role. It would be probably a bit harder to find a position that is opened, but it's still an option to consider. Second idea is data science. And data science is very, very tempting, kind of interesting kind of job. And well, they are in high demand and very well paid. That's what I know about the data scientists. And no wonder the amount of customer data growing quickly and companies looking for ways to get insights and monetization from that. So modern product development is majorly data informed. Generally speaking, a data scientist is someone who knows how to extract meaning and interpret data, which requires both tools and methods from statistics and machine learning, as well as knowing a little bit of coding. And the last option to consider is HR recruiter. A recruiter finds candidates to fill open positions. In this role, you'll need to connect people and job openings, scouting over the internet for the best candidates. You would also oversee most of the hiring process and may help a new hire to quickly adapt to a company. In most cases, it is expected of recruiters to be very personable and socially active because they're constantly communicating with the new people. Working as a HR professional could be extremely rewarding if you really enjoy working with people and you want to see them progress and just generally be happier in the company that you invited them to work for. These are just a few examples of tracks you can consider for yourself. Tech is a huge space full of opportunities and different roles. Don't limit yourself to just one job title if you're starting to explore other tech career choices. Please let me know in comments which job roles or position you consider for your career change.